All right, welcome into another week of Weather Chat. Yes, indeed. I am going solo today for the most part. My compadre, Brittany Ward, will be out this week, but we'll be back next week. And today, topic is what has just past occurred, which is daylight saving time. Now you're going, probably figuring out, Scott, why are you talking about daylight saving time? I mean, we already went through that. Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about it because there's some interesting stuff about daylight savings time. I've got some fun facts coming up for you in the last block before we end our podcast today. But I want to talk a little bit in this first block, a little bit about some history of daylight saving time and what we can expect as we go, into our next change. We've been talking about for years now. It seems like bills in Congress and legislation, and we'll get to that. But never really eventually either giving it one thing or another, either keeping it daylight saving time all year round or standard time all year round. And yes, there are some pros and cons to all of that, but we're going to talk a little bit about some of the history. And of course, as you well know, daylight saving time ended this past weekend here, or actually began this past weekend. We had the clocks falling back. Sunrise was at 6:36 on Sunday as opposed to 7:35 on this past Saturday. And I think what really kills a lot of us is this when the sun sets. It was 6:07 on Saturday night and 5:06, on Sunday evening. So yes, things are a little bit convoluted sometimes when it comes to daylight saving time, I should say. And just a little bit of history. Of course, we've had a lot of lawmakers out there trying to, like I said before, put a bill together. They have actually had 4 different bills. We'll get to that in the B block, but 4 different bills together and trying to get that through and pass. So we don't have to go through this craziness every spring and every fall. But just a little bit of history regarding daylight saving time, as you'll see here coming up. Of course, a lot of us are sleep deprived. That is certainly an issue. So you're stocking up on a lot of coffee out there, keeping yourself awake for as long as you can. And boy, you know the song, the movie Office Space. Oh, you got a case of the Mondays. Well, yeah, that's what happens big time when daylight saving time is put in place or taken away. The first weekend is implemented, going into fall and coming out in the spring. So yeah, that looks like a lot of us. All right, well, start off a little daylight saving time history. Believe it or not, Canada was the first actually to use and go into daylight saving time, and that was back in 1908. Now, according to some of the information I have here, that while Germany and Austria were the first countries to use daylight saving time in 1916, a little known fact about Canada beating the German Empire 8 years prior to that. And on July 1st in 1908, the residents of Port Arthur, Ontario, they turned their clocks forward 1 hour to start the world's first daylight saving time. And then soon to follow, some other Canada locations followed, and Regina and Saskatchewan implemented daylight savings time. Any Canadians out there, if you're tuning into this podcast, you'll know about that. And the cities of Winnipeg and Brandon in Manitoba, they did so a couple years later. But of course, that's not the first thought that comes to mind when we're talking about the time change here. And Germany, as I've noted here graphically, that popularized let's see here, let's get back to that. There we go, full screen. Germany popularized the daylight saving time. That was back in 1916. Now, the idea didn't catch on globally initially until Germany did that. And the clocks in the German Empire and its ally Austria were turned ahead by 1 hour on April 30th, 1916, 2 years into World War II. And the rationale for that was to minimize the use of artificial lighting to save fuel for the war effort. Now, within a few weeks, to hop on board and follow Germany in this standard here was the United Kingdom, otherwise known as England. France and other countries followed the idea. So, with that being said, that was, again, popularized by Germany in World War II. And then after, World War I, and then after World War I, Standard Time did return. But what you don't see on the graphic is that it came back for World War II. So, yes, some interesting stuff there and some of the history of daylight saving time. So, with that, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about some of the bills that have been proposed, and we'll get to that. And we'll also talk to Living Locals, our Charisse Gomez, who I want to get her input on what she thought of daylight saving time. She for it or against it? Well, stick around. You'll have to see that. That's coming up here in just a few minutes. All right, welcome back on Weather Chat here in this particular topic that we are talking about today is daylight saving time. And with me today is Living Local, Charisse Gomez.
Yes,
Thank you, Charisse, for coming on in and saying hello here and getting your input. You know, there's so many pros and cons with daylight saving time. You can't really get a universal view, if you will, on the topic. So which side of the fence do you sit on?
It's so tough for me because I am definitely weighing the pros and cons here because I've heard all the arguments. So can we go through the arguments first so I can really get a good educated opinion? Number one, it's lighter outside for the kids at the bus stop, correct?
Yes. Right.
Farmers are pro daylight saving time.
Well, that's always been known or stated, but actually that's part of my fun fact at the end of this podcast.
Am I skipping ahead?
It is.
I'm skipping to the
no. Farmers actually don't like it, but that's okay. Well, I'll talk about that in the next section.
Okay. Well, my opinion. Let me just start here. My opinion. I am not a fan of it because I am a summer type of girl. I was born in the fall, but I'm a summer girl at heart. I love sunlight. I love as much sunlight as possible. And when I leave work in the evening, it's not that late, 5 o'clock, it's already getting dark. My daughter's just 2 years old. She doesn't have that many words, but yesterday I picked her up from daycare. She gets into her car seat and she's like, "Mommy, it's so dark. Why is it so dark?" And I could not give a good educated reason why. So I know that there's been so many legislation that has tried to go through Congress to change it. A lot of people are up in arms about it, but I think some people do like it, getting that 1 hour of sleep.
You know what? You bring up a good point here about the legislation, because that's what this block is about, in addition to getting your opinion, because I'm just going to read off a couple of things here. This year was the Sunshine Protection Act that was put in place. Now, the purpose is to make the daylight saving time permanent year-round in the United States. The status on that bill, however, it is held up in the committees, and that was earlier this year. So basically, the key takeaway is this is a recurring kind of bipartisan push to unlock the clock, if you will.
Yes. Unlock it, please.
Unlock it. Get rid of it. Now, there have been, prior to this year, there have been a couple other ones, and one of the more notable ones was just a couple years ago, and at that point in time, Marco Rubio had supported in Florida some legislation, which actually did pass. I believe it was the House. It didn't get through the Senate at that point in time. But there have been so many bills out there trying to get this pushed through. Yep. I wonder, what do you do you have any thoughts on what this holdup may be?
Well, let me just say, I've been in D.C. for 10 years and I've covered politics. It is impossible to get bipartisan support to get something really across the aisle. Anything, like if you say bunnies are cute, somebody's like, absolutely, bunnies are ugly. So I think it's super hard. And I'm just speaking from a standpoint of where I've covered politics, and then my husband's working on the Hill, and he was working on legislation for years just to get women on quarters, which, I mean, all of these things seem like, oh, of course, everybody agrees with this, but it's so hard. And I know there's a lot of fine lines to bills and legislation. So I just know it's really, really tough to put in layman's terms to get things passed through the House and the Senate. And there's always somebody who's going to but, and then the whataboutisms. So there's what about this? What about that? So I don't know what's holding it up, but I'm sure there's a good millions of logical reasons why. I'm hoping.
We hope, right? Because here are some of the other ones that, if you can see, we also have the Sunshine Protection Act of 2023. We had a California state bill for standard time earlier in 2025, and we had the Daylight Act in 2023. So we've had all of these different bills, all within a short amount of time, trying to get pushed through. Now, the purpose is to make daylight savings time pretty much permanent. But the other purposes are to give individual states a choice. And that's something, did you know that Arizona is one of those states that doesn't fall?
Yes,
right?
yes. I have heard that because I know I have worked, again, working in journalism for a while. I've booked guests on, not our show, but other shows. And they talk about Arizona time, and it's totally different because everybody else is on a different time zone completely, but they might be an hour back or hour forward, whatever it is, depending on the time of the year. It's so confusing to me. But yeah, I know that Arizona was one of those special states. And I honestly want to ask you, as the man of science in the room, that I know it has psychological effects on animals, children, adults. I know it's impacted my sleep, but do you know some of the psychological and mental impacts? And it's so much.
Well, there is quite a bit to it. You mentioned the animals. Of course, they are just creatures of habit. So if you get up at a certain time, they're right with you. And when you don't happen to follow the rules because your clock is off, then they're all confused. They're like, Mommy, Daddy, come on. Breakfast time.
Yeah.
Come on, where's the bowl? I got to eat.
Something's off here.
Something's off. But yet I'm not seeing the sunlight either. It's dark.
Yeah.
So I think for me personally, Cherie, is that I don't like it getting so dark so soon. I prefer more the standard time.
Yes.
I like it light till 7:30, 8
Yes.
o'clock. Now, that is being completely selfish because, as you probably know, and I've talked about it a zillion times on air, I'm a big golfer. And I love to go out and golf. So the later those courses are open, the happier I am.
That makes sense.
And so, yeah, it does create a lot of different issues. And, of course, you have a child, as you said, you mentioned,
Bedtime is a disaster now.
It is. It has to be because
it's a disaster.
You're probably on a very regimented schedule with her.
Yes.
And she's so used to getting fed at a certain time, and then also maybe. I guess you read. Do you read?
We read.
too?
We have song time. It's bedtime is an experience, Scott. It's an experience
really
in my
is.
house.
What exactly do you do?
Oh my goodness. So she has bath with Daddy, and then after bath she reads 3 books that she picks with Daddy, and then it's my turn. I come in after bath time. We have a projector that reads stories on the ceiling, and so we get the room very still, very quiet. And so this helps with daylight saving, is that it's pitch black dark now, so she can see her books that she always calls them ceiling books because the projector projects them on the ceiling. So it's pitch black dark. We do 3 storybooks on the ceiling, and then also 2 songs. We do prayer time, and
wow.
then she goes to sleep. So
You weren't kidding when you said
It's
this.
an experience.
It is an experience.
it's a full experience.
That's great. Well, we thank you because I know we're on the clock. Speaking of clocks,
More clocks.
Time is a ticking because Teresa's has to host her own show there, living local, of course. So we want to thank you again for just stopping in just for a few minutes and mentioning what your thoughts are.
I have a lot of thoughts. Bring me back anytime.
Okay, we might just take you up on that. All right. All right. So with that being said, thank you, Charisse. And so, it is a very interesting topic, and there is a lot of psychology associated with it. People get quite depressed at times. And of course, you've heard of like a lot of traffic accidents that occur because people are maybe not getting the proper amount of sleep that they would normally do. They get up, they drive to work, they're a little more tired, they're not paying attention as much, and unfortunately then sometimes car accidents, vehicle accidents in general can occur. So there's a lot to it that is involved, and it's not just you're setting the clock back or setting the clock ahead. There's a lot of mentality and physicality that's associated with that, and it can become quite an issue. So the notable bills purpose. Again, make daylight saving time permanent. Give individual states a choice. Observe standard time year-round. And the status on these, Sunshine Act of 2025, well, that we talked about, that remains in committee. But prior bills either died in committee or actually even failed to get to committee to get voted on. So it has been a big struggle out there. Now, I want to talk about a little bit where each of our states stand in the DMV, the latest on that. So let's highlight first off Maryland. Now, Maryland, they want to keep daylight saving time permanent year-round. This is the states. I guess there was a general maybe consensus on that, how we got to there. But Maryland, apparently, they want daylight saving time permanent year-round. Now, we also talk a little bit about West Virginia. West Virginia, they want to eliminate daylight saving time and put West Virginia on standard time year-round. And the same can be said for Northern Virginia as well. Northern Virginia, they want daylight savings time eliminated and put themselves on standard time all year round. So I thought that was pretty interesting, each of the states. So it's now up to the lawmakers, to sit there and try and get through and pass legislation here, which has already been proposed. The Sunshine Bill, as I mentioned before, Sunshine Protection Act of 2025. Let's see. Lawmakers, can you come to an agreement there? Can you go one way or another and not make us have to do crazy jumps through hoops in order for changes to occur across the entire DMV? And not just here in the DMV, but across the United States. As we said, most states do go back and forth between standard time and daylight saving time. And as we did mention, Hawaii and Arizona, parts of Arizona, I think most of it though, Navajo tribe area certainly does. They do not, go with standard time. They don't necessarily deal with that. So we shall see what happens in the future, and we'll go from there. All right. Well, with that being said, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back with some final thoughts here on daylight saving time and also, as promised, some fun facts. All right, welcome back here to Weather Chat. I'm meteorologist Scott Sumner. Today's topic, once again, is daylight saving time. And we have been talking about this for a good 15, 20 minutes, and we're going to wrap it up here with just some fun facts for you regarding daylight saving time. And there we go. So let's get to it. Graphic here showing four different things, four fun facts. All right, first of all, less than 40% of the world observes daylight saving time. Yeah, did not know that, but 71 countries across the world, they do observe it. But Canada has observed it the longest, as you probably have known. We were talking about that the first segment, about the originality of daylight saving time being used was by Canada back in the early 1900s. They've been using it for 111 years. Followed closely behind is the U.S. They've been doing it for now 106 years. All right, so that's one fun fact here. Now, most farmers oppose it, believe it or not. They don't love it. The entertainment world and others, retailers love it, but farmers oppose to it. And why is that? Well, in fact, there are several reasons that farmers oppose the move. One, they have to rush their crops to market, and regardless of the time of the clock. So not too happy about that. They have to wait for the dew point and the dew that forms sometimes in the morning to evaporate off their products before they can actually get it and use it. And for dairy farmers, the time change throws the cows off. We talked about that with Charisse, about the animals. Animals are also impacted with it. And it could be difficult to manage the schedule of hired workers. So these are all different reasons why farmers are actually opposed to having daylight saving time in effect. All right, third one of the fun facts here, third most interesting to me, hopefully maybe to you, is that the number of months, they keep growing. Didn't start out that way, but right now we have got 8 months of daylight saving time, and standard time just 4. So yeah, they're doubling up here on that. Now, Congress has extended the length of daylight time 3 times. The first time was during the energy and the oil crisis back in the early 1970s, then again in the 1980s and in 2007. Just a couple things there. And then the last fun fact I have for you, most people lose 40 minutes of sleep at the start of daylight saving time. And I thought that was interesting because a professor, assistant professor, more specific, of management and organization out at the University of Washington did a study a couple years ago, found that most people lose 40 minutes of sleep during the time change in the spring, just enough to throw off their body rhythms. And it does take several days, obviously, to kind of acclimate and recover. So short-term effects of the change tend to fall on within the first 24 to 48 hours after the adjustment. So I thought that was interesting information. I hope you did as well. And that will wrap up this week's segment of Weather Chat on a topic that is very controversial. And so far, legislation hasn't passed anything through Congress. Hopefully that will change soon, one way or another. All right, that's all for now. I want to thank everyone for being with me today, hosting this solo. And as always, God bless, be well, stay safe, and we'll talk again soon.